Alright guys, so after a long wait, finally the new Citroen C3 Aircross SUV is here. Well, not launched, unveiled. And you can see, well, it's got that typical Citroen design, that French quirkiness. And you can make it out, it's very similar to the C3, C5, but has a lot of different elements. And it follows the same pattern of the LED DRL and here and the headlamp unit in the lower base. The bumper here is quite interesting with the logo and of course looks interesting, gives the car a very nice dynamic and a sharp face. One of the key changes when you compare it to the C3 or C5 is how the wheel arches have been brought outside, and this gives the car a wide stance, of course a dynamic stance, and at the same time gives it more of an SUV look. Once you move to the side, you can get these very nice looking alloy wheels. These are 215 by 60 17-inch alloy wheels, and they go well with the overall sharp design of this SUV. And as you move along the side panel, you can see a dual color tone, which we are now used to seeing on some of the earlier Citroen cars. Moving further back to the rear, well, this is where the C3 Aircross definitely looks different from any of its rivals. It's got these very nicely done tail lamps. You can see it's got this C shape, and the elements inside also have got a very nice and a unique design. You can see the pattern here, which of course again is one of the finer details. And as you have a look at the rear, it does have a boxy yet modern looking rear. So that again is very different from its rival. And when you look at this vehicle overall, it doesn't come across as a small car platform which has just been raised to look like an SUV. It does look like a proper SUV, and that too a pretty dynamic and a sharp looking one. Now, one of the most interesting things about the C3 Aircross is the fact that you can choose between a 5-seat version and a 5+2. I'll come back to the third row, but looking at the front, you can see it's got a combination of different colors, which is in the usual funky style that we have now become accustomed to seeing in Citroen vehicles. It's got this plastic panel with a lot of detailing here. It also has this 10-inch color touchscreen here. In terms of the display here, I think it's pretty similar to what we've seen on the C3 as well, but a slightly different size and a slightly different outer panel. The air vents have the typical cubicle shape that we are used to seeing on Citroen cars, and there is a fully digital instrument cluster which looks quite colorful and nice, pleasing to look at. Typical Citroen flat bottom steering wheels. You can see the controls here, the plastic panels. Now, while all of this looks cool, the slight issue I have here is that the quality of the plastics, a lot of places, for example, this, especially these knobs, the way they feel when you're operating them, it doesn't feel at par with some of the key rivals such as the Creta or the Seltos or even the Hector. But the seats themselves, well, they are pretty nice, quite comfortable, nice seats. No option of ventilation for now, at least I don't see it in this variant. And in terms of space, practicality space, a lot of it inside. You can see this layered center console here, so a lot of stuff you can put here. In terms of overall feel of the cabin, in terms of space and airiness, I would again rate it quite high. Doesn't feel claustrophobic at all. But again, the test is about the middle seat and more importantly the last row. So let's move there and find out. Now, moving back to the middle seat of the C3 Aircross, well, it does come across as a pretty airy vehicle, and you can see right now, if I look at the space here, I've got a good amount of leg room, knee room. And the seat itself, well, this is one good thing about the seat, that at least for the two occupants on either side, you will have a decent amount of under thigh support as well. Headroom again is quite good, and you've got the AC vents here at the top of the ceiling. Again, like I was saying, what I said at the front, the quality of materials and a lot of stuff doesn't feel at par with the rivals. The same you can see here with these rear AC vents. It just looks, the plastic quality doesn't belong in a vehicle of this segment. So I think probably that is an area of improvement, and hopefully when we see the production vehicles, it will be much better. But the seat overall, I think for 4 occupants here up front, the front and the middle seat, it's pretty good. The third passenger, well, you can have here the person sitting with just about decent comfort because you do have a high center tunnel here, and the seat, again, the design means that you will have very little under thigh support. Also, in terms of utility, you've got a bottle holder here, and in typical French quirky fashion, you've got the buttons for the power windows here and not on the door panel. Of course, it makes good cost-cutting reasoning, so I'm sure that for comparative pricing, Citroen has placed these here because it saves a lot in terms of wiring. So yeah, I mean, and you also have 2 USB sockets here. So that was the front and the middle row. Now let's head into the last row, which is again optional. Citroen is clearly saying this is not a 7-seat vehicle, it's a 5+2, which means it's ideal. The third row is ideal for children or occasional seating for adults. So good on that part, at least they're clear and honest. Well, to get into it, just pull this strap, flips open. I'll not close the seat for now, and you can see this is the kind of space I have. So I do have some amount of knee room to spare. Headroom, I would say, is just about okay for my height. I'm 5 feet 8 inches for reference. The seating, as expected, is quite low, which means your knees are pointing upwards and you have almost no under thigh support. But like I said earlier, Citroen is at least honest that this is a place meant only for children and occasional seating for adults. So that's perfectly fine. One slight issue I do have with this seat is that when you're sitting on this side of the seat and you have this seat up, because of the design of the arch here, it is very hard to sit straight. So you will end up sitting slightly tilted, and that kind of feels a bit awkward. And getting out, well, no wonder that it is suitable for kids. Yeah. So that's the first quick look at the C3 Aircross. Like I said, just to sum it up, it's got that typical French styling, and it will be offered in either a 5 or a 5+2 version in terms of seating. The space and the seating is different in both, so it's not as if this just a row has been put up. And the 5+2 also offers the option where you can just fold the row down and still have more boot space. In terms of powertrain, like I said earlier, they'll use the same 1.2 litre turbo petrol engine. The power figure hasn't been disclosed yet, but a manual transmission is what they'll go in for, a 6-speed manual transmission at the time of the launch. An automatic, not at the time of launch, but maybe later. As far as the launch is concerned, we expect the launch to happen sometime in early August. That is when the prices for the entire C3 Aircross range would be out, and that is when we'll get to know how competitive it will be in taking on the fight to the Creta, Seltos and the like.